Madam Speaker, we have very strong objections to this bill, and in particular, the way that this matter has been dealt with. Madam Speaker, we're deeply concerned because today the government is in breach of the law that they're seeking to amend. Today, the government is in breach of the law. The government is operating unlawfully in relation to this matter. And let me say why. The current law allows for, on the death of a councillor, for the municipality to be notified, and on notification, within 90 days, an election to replace that councillor must be called and held. And held. The notice was given to the St. Thomas Parish Council on the 9th of May, Councillor Bryan having passed on the 30th of April. So by that law, by this law, the elections ought to be held by the 9th of August. There's no way that can happen today, because in holding an elections, you have to have regard for nomination day, which is normally 5 days after announcement, and then within minimum 16 days for the elections to be held. It can't be held now.
On the 23rd of July?
Can be called today on the 23rd of July for it to be held on the 9th of August. So the first thing the government should do today, in the minister addressing this parliament, is to acknowledge that as a government, we are in breach of the law. And that cannot be right. The government cannot be breaking its own law. It is wrong. So that's the first matter. Madam Speaker, that very law would have allowed the government, if they had called the election on the Advent event of burial, to postpone the elections for 30 days
Beyond the election date.
Beyond the date. That is the law.
11.
So if within that 90-day period, the government had called the election and burial came, then the government could extend by 30 days
9th of September.
that election. So what do we have here? What do we have here? The government having breached the law. Today, the day when we, I believe, go off on our summer recess, we see another rushed bit of legislation coming. We are just having sight of it today. We are just having sight of it today. Right? Chaka chaka indeed. So we are going to see a bill, the first time we're seeing it, table today, rush it through today. Total disrespect for us inside here. Total disrespect for the institution of local government. But it's more than that, Madam Speaker. This bill is seeking not to give an extension of 30 days, but 90 days. And it seems as if it is the minister is to give this extension. The minister has no role because the person who is by law to call the by-election is the chairman of the municipality.
Having consulted with the Director of Elections.
And having consulted with the Director of Elections.
How the minister comes to
So what do we have here? Another instance of the erosion and overreach in the way elections are conducted. And you know, we have warned already about tampering with the framework that we have built up with tremendous trust and faith over many decades after coming through some period of turbulence. And we cannot be tampering with the law in this way. First of all, there should have been consultation with the opposition.
Absolutely.
There should have been consultation with the opposition. That hasn't happened on a matter like this. Have you consulted as well with the Electoral Office? Have you advised them? Because by right they should have been advised when the notice was given on the 9th of May of an election, so they could have prepared a budget. My understanding is that they did not. There was no consultation with the ECJ or the EOJ, right? Because there was no intention to call election. So, Madam Speaker, the people of Morant Bay want representation. They want it especially now because of the burden cast on them by the advent of burial. So by putting off by 90 days their right to have their own parish councillor, it's a disgrace and it is unfair for the people of Morant Bay who are entitled to having their representative in the parish council. So, Madam Speaker, we are not supporting this bill today. I have stated the reasons, and as an opposition, we are taking strong exception again to the way that this has been done. Unlawful, the government is behaving unlawfully, and in this regard, Madam Speaker, I say on behalf of those people in Morant Bay who want to be able, especially now when we are trying to rebuild from burial, they want to have their own councillor in that municipality. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. House Leader. Minister.
Madam Speaker, you know, I heard the member, and the member is speaking, you know, as though this is normal time, and totally ignorant of the provisions of the law which would allow for this amendment to be made to facilitate an election to be held within a reasonable time in a situation where a mega event has reached the country. Madam Speaker, the member is unmindful of the fact that we just narrowly escaped the full blunt of a Category 4 hurricane, the outer eye wall of which has so damaged the country. The entire electricity system in Jamaica has been fully disrupted from Negril to Moran Point. Schools have been damaged. The Minister of Education has indicated the level and the number of schools that have been damaged all over St. Thomas, all over the island. And Madam Speaker, you know, everything doesn't have to be made into a political debate, because one understands very clearly why the need for this amendment. The amendment happened because other situations may occur in the future other than this one. Because now we have a situation, for example, where we have a hurricane, damage done. Someone died, created naturally a vacancy. The time when the report was made to the chairman of the municipal corporation, correctly done, possibly by the two members who are electors from the past election, and fulfilling all the requirements thereof. But what has happened is that the time when an election could be announced was overtaken by this mega event, which had all of us from the grill to Moran Point, including the members on that side, all over their constituency, walking all over the place, trying to deal with mega disruptions in their community. And they wanted an election to be held in that atmosphere? Absolutely not. And so what the government is seeking to do through this amendment is simply to allow for the elections to be held under circumstances and in conditions that is conducive for the proper execution of the rules of democracy. And so we are satisfied that there was no breach in the sense of a government willfully and deliberately breaching the laws. And you know it. And you know that it is not a willful breach of the law, but the circumstances created this situation. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we feel that we want democracy to prevail. And we want the people of Morant Bay to have representation. And so, therefore, the move is to enable the minister in the circumstance to be able to have the election within 90 days or so after this expiration. And so, Madam Speaker, I beg to move that, and what I want to thank the member for whatever that contribution was, and quite understanding why he made the point the season that we are in. But I would invite this Honourable House to give favourable consideration to the approval of the bill. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
For the members who may not be following, it is the monetary reports earlier passed in Standing Finance Committee. I ask that the motion be approved. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Thank you, Minister.